High above the mud of 1914, a man is hanging from a wicker basket, praying that physics ignores him today. The sky turns into a furnace. Observation balloons were hydrogen-filled firebombs, waiting for a single spark to end the intelligence game. Welcome to God's grossest prank. To understand why pilots were willing to dive through a wall of shrapnel to pop a balloon, you have to look at the prize. The Pour la Rickety. Established in 1740 by King Frederick II of Prussia, it was the ultimate bravery badge for officers. If you wanted one, you had to kill, often. It was the highest order of bravery in the Kingdom of Prussia, and for a WWI pilot, it was the only way to prove you weren't just a rich kid in a lawnmower with wings. Prussia loved their systems. In 1842, King Frederick William IV decided that maybe scientists and artists deserved some love too, establishing a civil class for merits in sciences and humanities. But in 1914, the humanities took a backseat to the let's see how many empires we can delete in one decade class. The conservative lifestyle of the early 1910s was about to get a very loud, very violent wake-up call. Meet Archduke Franz Ferdinand. His primary hobbies included having an impressive mustache and being the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. On June 28, 1914, his conservative lifestyle was permanently interrupted in Sarajevo. His murder didn't just kill a man, it shattered a global legacy of military alliances. It was the first domino in a sequence that would eventually dissolve his entire world. The decade's calm was just a setup for the punchline. The murder triggered a chain of events that moved with a speed that would make modern bureaucrats weep. In just 33 days, the diplomatic letters stopped and the bullets started. World War I officially broke out in Europe on August 1, 1914. It was the fastest transition from peace for our time to everyone is now a target in modern history. The world went from starched collars to gas masks in the blink of an eye. In the air, the stakes were even more absurd. Balloon observers had the worst job in the world. They were tethered to the ground, hanging in a flammable bubble, spotting artillery. To pilots, they were just big, floating targets that helped them earn their Pour la Rickety. But popping one was a forensic nightmare. You had to fly low, deal with anti-aircraft fire, and hope the hydrogen didn't incinerate you along with the observer. Observers weren't completely helpless, though. They were the first to regularly use parachutes to evacuate during attacks. While the balloon was being turned into a hydrogen explosion, the observer was drifting slowly to the ground, hoping he didn't get shot on the way down. It was a terrifying evacuation plan for a job that led to the destruction of hundreds of balloons throughout the war. A parachute was your only prize for surviving the original Forbidden Snack Challenge. While pilots hunted balloons, the war was hunting whole nations. The Russian Empire's participation was a masterclass in how to fail a social experiment. Their involvement led to a total social, political, and economic collapse. By the time it was over, the citizens were in a permanent state of crisis. It turns out you can't run a world war and a functioning economy at the same time if your system is built on medieval promises and zero bread. The end of the war was the ultimate empire deletion event. It triggered the abdication of monarchies and the collapse of four of the last modern empires: Russia, Germany, Ottoman Turkey, and Austria-Hungary. Four massive power structures gone. The Austrian-Hungarian legacy was splintered into a jigsaw puzzle of new nations: Austria, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and a very land-hungry Poland. It was a geopolitical garage sale where everything had to go. On June 28, 1919, they signed the Treaty of Versailles. It was supposed to fix things. It didn't. But while Europe was trying to remember how to be a continent again, the trend of revolution had already gone global. Monarchy was officially out, and violent civil war was in. The Portuguese 5 October 1910 revolution had already set the vibe. ending an 8-century-long monarchy. But that was just the appetizer for the chaos brewing across the Atlantic. The Mexican Revolution kicked off in November 1910, ousting dictator Porfirio Diaz and developing into a violent civil war that refused to quit until mid-1920. It was a decade of crowds and chaos that affected every single person in the country. They eventually got a new Mexican constitution out of it in 1920, but the price in blood was steep. Revolution was the new black, and nobody was safe from the trend. Even metals had to adapt to the new world. The Prussian crown was gone, and the Order of the Black Eagle was extinct. But the civil class of the pour la rickety, the one for the nerds and artists, refused to die. In 1923, it was revived as an independent organization. It went from a royal decree to a self-managed club for geniuses, a rare survivor of the empire culling that had just wiped the rest of the Prussian merit system off the map. But what about the military class? The balloon busters and trench warriors. The last living recipient of the military pour la rickety was a German author named Ernst Junger. He didn't just receive the award, he outlived the entire system that created it. Junger lived through the empires, the revolutions, and the end of the century, finally passing away in 1998. He was a human bridge between a time of horse-drawn carriages and the age of the internet. The war's end triggered the abdication of various monarchies, leaving the ordinary citizens to pick up the pieces. Millions of people were affected by the splintering of lands and the economic crises that followed. The prestige of a medal like the pour la rickety became a symbol of a bygone era, a blue-enameled reminder of a world that thought it could solve its problems with hydrogen and heavy artillery. It was a lethal obsession that ultimately popped like one of its own balloons. So, the next time you see a fancy medal, remember the balloon busters. Remember the observers jumping from fireballs and the empires that collapsed trying to pay for it all. The 1910 were a masterclass in how to change a conservative lifestyle into a total revolutionary crisis in just 33 days. History isn't just a series of events. It's a long list of people who thought their hydrogen wouldn't explode. Until it did.